guys, it's Michelle from Cozy Egg, and this is episode 82. Today is Monday, January 13th, 2020. So thanks so much for coming back if you're a returning viewer. And if this is your first time to join me, thanks so much for joining. I can't believe it's 2020. So the last time we spoke was December 11th of 2019. So it's been a month. And obviously the holidays have happened during that time. I had about a week and a half off from work, which was lovely, much needed. Unfortunately, I did get a stomach bug like the Friday before I was supposed to be off. So I actually had to call in sick, which I never do, but I basically slept that whole day. Like I was really down for the count. So that kind of cut into the beginning of my my vacation. But once I got over that, I was good to go. So I basically spent my vacation working on a website for my needlework guild, Tudor Rose Sampler Guild, that's here in the DFW area. So this is our 20th anniversary, and we have lots of fun things planned this year. We had been talking about doing a website for a while, and finally we got kind of all of the pieces lined up. And so over the holidays, Eric and I worked on, he built it out, and then I worked on putting in all of the content. We previously had a blog over on Blogger that we've had since like 2009, but we migrated, everything over to the new website. So we've got all of our historical blog posts there, as well as going forward, we'll have all of our blog posts there with show and tell and finishes and all that good stuff. But the important piece that we were, wanting to have out there is kind of, who are we? How do you find us? How do you join? Where do we meet? When do we meet? All that good stuff. So we now have a website that tells you all of those things. And we've got a page for workshops, upcoming workshops, and a page for programs, and you can join the guild right there on the website, all that good stuff. So we worked very hard on getting that done, and I'm very pleased with it. So if you want to check it out, go to tudorrosesamplerguild.com and check it out. And if you're in the DFW area and are looking for a local needlework guild, please come visit us. We would love to have you. So that's what I worked on, along with sleeping in, stitching, reading, and watching a whole bunch of Christmas movies. So saw some friends, did some stuff, but it was a nice, quiet holiday, which was fantastic, and that's really what I needed. So okay, well, let's get into it, shall we? Obviously, I had a sneaky suspicion that I was not going to get another video in before the end of the year, which I didn't. So a lot of people have been doing kind of their, 2019 wrap up, 2020 plans, whip parade, so on and so forth. We're not doing a whip parade. Ain't nobody got time for that. The last time I did a whip parade, it was 2 separate, like, hour-and-a-half long videos. We're not doing a whip parade. So, you're welcome. I will be talking a little bit about pertinent whips, and we'll go from there. So, why don't we start and talk about finishes. So specifically, obviously I was doing School of Magical Stitches for the bulk of the year, but I was also doing the Stitch 9 challenge, as well as my guild's Magic challenge. And so Magic stands for my annual Good Intentions contract. And basically, if you've been here before, you've probably heard me talk about it. But if not, the intention is to, choose a project or multiple projects that have been hanging around a while that you are ready to finish, that you want to challenge yourself to finally get over the finish line. And we have usually like a check-in at either our June meeting or our August meeting. And then at our January meeting, everybody shows kind of, did you finish your magic? Did you, get close, etc. There are prizes, all kinds of good stuff. So, so I'll just kind of go through both of those challenges and, what I finished, what I didn't, etc. So, this is my project roll, which some of you may have seen. This was made by my friend Sylvia with Ghastly fabric that I just love, especially this owl. And then on the inside, it has this tree fabric, which I love. And there's a pool noodle inside of it. But it's the perfect place to put, your whips, or I actually use it to hold my finished projects that are not framed so that I can kind of keep them corralled, so to speak. So I thought since I had sort of pulled everything together for my magic check-in, I thought I'd just bring my whip roll, project roll, and go through them. So some of these are, I'm just going to go through sort of, I'll tell you if it was a Stitch 9 challenge finish, if it was a magic finish, or if it was just a finish. So, all right. So this is Salem Village, Primitive Needle. This was on my Stitch 9 challenge, and I just love this. So I stitched this on 40 count dapple by Picture This Plus. And I think I just pulled my own overdyes. But after seeing Abby Bella stitch this one, I fell in love and just had to stitch it. So that was one of my Stitch 9 challenge pieces. This is an old one. I didn't do this in 2019. I did this in 2018. Blackbird Designs. Winter Delivery, I think. So I have some older pieces in here, obviously. For those of you that are obeying the law and doing a red sampler, thanks to Brenda and the Serial Starter, this is a sampler that I did a while back. This was in one of the Sampler and Antique Needlework quarterly issues, and this is the On Floor sampler. And I just love it. I stitched it on 40 count lamb's wool, which is not my favorite. I stitched it in a Veriswa 103 silk, and I just love this one. I really should get this framed. It's been in here a long time. I'm just gonna skip over some of these. This one, I don't know that I've ever shown it on here, but this is Margaret Cottam by Lottie Daw. This was a mystery sampler that was released in 3 parts. And I stitched this on the called for 40 count weeks mocha with the called for threads. I stitched this in 2012. And I absolutely love this sampler. I had so much fun stitching it. I just loved absolutely everything about it. And I kept up with it as it was released. So like I was ready for the next part when they released it. And I just have never framed it, but I love it. Especially that part with the guy and the dog and the house that's under a hill. I just love it. And this is also a super old finish. This is Earth Sampler by Primitive Needle on Picture This Plus Ale, 40 count. And I think this may have been my very first piece of 40 count. And I just love that piece. I don't know why I have not. All right, this was a Stitch 9 challenge piece, and this was also on my Magic. This is, you may recall, Colonial Garden. Let's see if I can do that so that you're not seeing through it. So Colonial Garden, Plum Street Samplers. This is on 40 count Black Forest by Lakeside with the called for NPIs. And this piece, I love it now that it's done. This was the piece that got done completely thanks to Magical Stitches, because every time there was a stitch on your least favorite project, or stitch on something you hate, or stitch on something because you're in detention, this is the piece that came out. And little by little, stitch by stitch, I finished it. And it's beautiful. I love the colors. But man, that was a bear to stitch. So that was Stitch 9 Challenge as well as Magic. And then of course, this one was a Stitch 9 Challenge as well as Magic, and that is Anniversaries of the Heart. So this was kind of my big finish this year. A lot of work went into getting this done. But I'm so thrilled that it's finally finished. And now it just needs to be framed. So that was a Stitch 9 Challenge as well as Magic. And then the last piece, which is a finish you have not seen, is my Sampler Sisters. So the last time I showed this, I just had a little bit left to go. I think I was kind of up here. So now it's finished and I love it. And I wish you could see the true color of this because it's really beautiful. Maybe I'll insert a photo here. I really loved stitching this piece, and I'm so glad that I finally got it done. I had started it back like in 2014, 2015 when I went to the attic summer school. And then picked it back up, I think, in 2018 when Diana, It Is Kismet Stitches, and Emily Eclectic Possessions started theirs, like on November 11th, 2018, I think. So I picked it back up this year and worked on it, and I'm absolutely thrilled that I got it finished. That was my last finish for 2019. I had intended to get it done in November, but I went over into December a bit. But that was on my Stitch 9 and on Magic. So and that's it. So those are all my finishes. So as sort of a recap, so on my Stitch 9 challenge, I basically finished 4 out of the 9. The other 5, I made some good progress on a few of them. And then there were 2 that I didn't touch at all. So, as far as Magic goes, I had 4 pieces on my Magic list, and I finished 3 of them. I had hoped to get that 4th one finished before the January meeting, but it just didn't happen. So, and I will show you that one here in just a moment. So, I think as far as, challenges go, I'm really happy about how I did as far as Magic went. I wish that I had gotten more of my Stitch 9 pieces finished, but as these things go, I think while Magical Stitches helped me finish Colonial Garden, and it also honestly got me a lot closer to finishing Anniversaries of the Heart. I think too that doing as much switching of projects that I did, I wasn't moving things moving single pieces forward as much as I could have been. So that may have played a part in it, but also, I work on what I feel like working on. So, I've been seeing some, rumors or some posts that it looks like Michelle Farm Girl may have a new challenge for this year. I don't know the specifics of it because I haven't watched her last video, but we'll discuss that when we get to plants. So, that's kind of my 2019 wrap up. Obviously I worked on a bunch of different things, and I had a couple more finishes that, I'll be honest with you, I don't know where they are because they're not in that whip roll, or project roll. But I don't think I had too many more finishes other than that. I mean, obviously those are the big ones. So let's talk about 2020, shall we? So I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do for 2020, and I will probably sign up for Magic again. I have to sign up before or at our February meeting, so I have a little bit of time to think about that. As I went through 2019, I kept looking at, why do I not have more samplers finished? And the answer that came up from that question was basically because you have like 20 samplers that are whips. So maybe you should finish some of those. So I've decided that my 2020 is basically going to be the year of samplers. That's what I really want to focus on. I want to focus on stitching some pieces that I've been really wanting to start, and also focusing on finishing some of the samplers that I have as whips. You know, when I did that big kind of whip organization purge during the year last year, that's what I found was I had, you know, a plethora of samplers that had been started. So if I finished all of those, I would have a sampler wall just with the ones that I've started. So I was watching, you know, Olivia B's video near the end of the year where she had her guest speakers on, and I think Maddie was talking about doing, you know, the year of I'm dreaming of a sampler wall or something, I think is her hashtag that she's using. You know, 2019 she did, you know, a year of Blackbird designs. And so her plan this year is to start or work on a whip every month and try to get some samplers done for her sampler wall. So that's essentially what I'm planning on doing, is trying to get some samplers on my sampler wall. Because when I look at my sampler wall, I pretty much have one sampler out there. One. So obviously I have a couple other samplers that have been finished, but they're hanging elsewhere in the house. So we got to get on this. So let's talk first about what I worked on end of the year. So after I finished Sampler Sisters, I switched over to work on Crown Bird. And Crown Bird was the fourth piece that was on my Magic, the one that I did not finish. I had hoped to, but it took me a little longer to finish Sampler Sisters, so I didn't get Crown Bird finished. So here's what Crown Bird looks like. This is by Plum Street Samplers, and Paulette designed this sampler for the Tudor Rose Sampler Guild back in 2013. And you may recall that I started this in January of last year. The plan being that several of us would have this finished in September when Paulette came back to our guild to teach a new piece. We didn't quite make it. So Becky Socks for Mom and Rachel Stitch and Be Well, Mrs. Venzel, didn't quite make it, but I'm getting close. So basically over the holidays, I stitched that house. I think the last time I showed this to you, I was just starting on this part of the verse. So I finished that. I started bringing the border down, and then I basically stitched the entire house from the roof down over the holidays. And then I've been working on the grass. So I've got my sheep in there. I've got my 2 dogs in there. I've got my lady with her fascinator and the gentleman with his cane or his walking stick. and I'm working on that grass. So basically what I have left is I need to bring this border down across the bottom and then halfway on this side. I need to finish this grass because once I get below these sheep here, it's just grass. And then I need to put the ear. And that's it. That's all I have left, which is a ton of stitching, but comparatively speaking. So I worked on this basically exclusively for Sampler September, and then put it away, did Dark October. I worked on Sampler Sisters basically all of November, and then my plan was to pick this back up December 1st, like right after Thanksgiving. But unfortunately, I didn't really pick it up until like the 12th or something, 12th or 13th of December. So that's where I'm at. So I've basically been working on it about a month this time. So this is my first priority, is to finish this. I'm not rotating, I'm not anything. I'm just focusing on getting this finished because I'm ready to have it done. I am stitching this with so obviously it was a workshop, so it was a kit. So it's the called for 36 count vintage Meadow Rue by Lakeside. And the called for threads, which are a combination of Belle Soie and MPI. And unfortunately, I have run out of one thread, the black, and I'm getting super close to running out of this green. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have enough green to finish the grass and finish the border. But lucky for me, in another project, I have a whole skein of it. I did not have another skein of that black, so I was just SOL on that. But I should be good on the grain. So, and while I have this out, so this is living in my Socks for Mum bag made by Becky that is beautiful. And when we did the magic check-in at Guild, one of the prizes that I got for finishing something on my magic was this Tudor Rose scissor fob or bag pull or whatever. Isn't that pretty? And I also got these Kelmscott Designs Tudor Rose matte black scissors. I have a pair of these in silver, but I really wanted them in the matte black, so now I am. Yay. So I decided they needed to live here in my Tudor Rose bag. And the lobster claw that's on here is too small to fit over the handle of those, so I will find another pair of scissors to put those on, or put it on one of my zippers. So that's up first, is Crown Bird and getting that finished. The other things that I plan to work on. So you may recall that my plan was to start in Ufendell for my January 1st start. I did not want to abandon Crown Bird though to start anything. So I just kept going on Crown Bird. I did not have a New Year's start, and I'm totally okay with that. I do still need to get the fabric for this, which is an expense that I'm not quite in a place to purchase right at the moment, but I need to get going on this because this is a borrowed chart. So I do still plan to start in Ufendell. She just was not a New Year's start. The other thing that I plan to start is this Birds of a Feather Happy Heart sampler that was passed to me. And this has been on my want to stitch list for forever. And I have the fabric for it. I got Lakeside Linen 40 count sand dune, which I think will be perfect. So I just need to pull the threads for this, and then I can get started on this. And this is what I'd like to stitch for Eric for our anniversary. So Colonial Garden was for our anniversary last year. I still haven't given it to him because it's not framed. This one, I would like to give it to him for this year in April. So I may start this one after I finish Crown Bird. We'll see. But that is on my imminent to start list. And then I have one other plan to start. I was, apparently I've been sleeping under a rock because I was clueless about this. But on New Year's Day, Eric and I were watching the Rose Parade, which we always do, and they had a float pertaining to the Mayflower, and they were talking about it being the 400th anniversary, and I thought, it is the 400th anniversary. I should stitch this piece that I have had in my stash forever and a day that I've been wanting to stitch. It's the perfect time to start that. So, and then of course, after I made this decision, then I saw these people talking about doing this. So this was not an innovative idea, but this is Women of the Mayflower. And I think I bought this after seeing it on someone's blog way back in 2006. So I've had this in my stash since 2006. It's in this Fine Lines magazine, spring of 2004. So this was already 2 years old by the time I purchased it. And so this Women of the Mayflower piece, I just love it. And I've always loved it. So what better time to finally stitch it than on the 400th anniversary, because I'm all about the anniversaries. It is charted for Old Willow Stitchery threads, which I don't think are still made. So I will be doing kind of my own overdyed conversion, probably just to overdyed cottons. But I just love it. So I wrote this down, but of course now I don't have it with me. But the Mayflower set sail in like September and arrived, you know, of course, in November. And so I thought I'd kind of like to you know, start it on the day that they set sail and aim to finish it by the time that they landed. So that's my plan. As far as fabric goes, my Sampler Sisters piece is on 40 count mellow, and I actually have, because that was a linear cut, I actually have about this much left of it, which I think is big enough to stitch this on. So I'm gonna check that, but I will probably be stitching this on my leftover 40 count mellow, because I think it'll work perfect. So that's the other piece that I have, and I think Pam and Steph talked about it. One of them may be starting that piece. Some other folks were talking about starting the Laura Standish sampler, which I also have, but this is a little more manageable for me at this time, because the aim here is to finish some things. And then I have two other pieces that are high on my radar that I want to focus on. And so I think once I finish with Crown Bird, I am going to start to move in a rotation, like I used to do, where I kind of worked for a week on something and then switched to something else. So the first one that is high on my radar is living in this project bag. And this, it's been a while since this saw any love. So this is His Eyes on the Sparrow. And I believe this is on 48 count Gonder linen. So it's tiny. So that's where I am. I'm almost done with page 1. And that's probably pretty close to accurate color on the fabric. Maybe a little light. So I would really like to focus on His Eyes on a Sparrow and get this done this year. It's a big piece, but obviously it's doable. So this is super high on my radar. And I'm stitching it with the called for colors. Like I said, I think this is 48 count Gonder linen that Sylvia dyed for me. So we started these together. This was our New Year's start some year. I don't remember what year because it's been a while. But there we go. So that's at the top of my list. So as soon as I finish with Crown Bird, I will work on this. And then the next one, the other piece that I have, this was also a Sylvia bag. This is made with laminate. The other piece that I really want to focus on is Frances Eden. This is Handwork Samplers. This is out of print. And I just absolutely love this. I love the colors in it. I love that it's an A&E. And so I started this for Mania a couple years ago. Whenever I lost my head and started a whole bunch of stuff. And this is what I have done. I just love it. So I did get this out and I worked on it a little bit during Magical Stitches craziness. But I would like, and that's probably accurate color on the fabric. So I'm stitching it with the Vicki Clayton silks. So that's what all these spools are. And I wonder what this fabric is. This is 40 count vintage exemplar. And the silks and the fabric were a gift. So finally putting them to good use. So this is the other one that I would really like to focus on and get finished this year. And of course, these 3 new starts that I showed you, the plan is to start them and finish them this year. No carryover. So, Sparrow, Frances Eden, Happy Heart Sampler, Women of the Mayflower, and Ufendale. Those are kind of the top things on my list. Obviously, I will probably throw in some little smaller things here and there, maybe. But for the most part, it's the year of samplers. So that's what I'm focusing on. What else? So I have a little bit of stash to show, and I wanted to talk about books. So let's do stash. And then if you don't want to hear about books, you don't have to. So, before the end of the year, Becky from Socks for Mom sent me a lovely package. She had put together bags and thread rings, scissor fobs for the Red Deer sampler, which I would really like to start, but is not on my radar. Let's be clear. It's not on my radar, but I kind of fell in love. So this is one of her thread keeps that she did. It has a Red Deer toile on it, and that's kind of what the bag looks like. And then there's a little deer charm as well. So she sent that to me because I had to have it. And at some point there may be a bag that makes its way to me as well. And then she also sent me this lovely thing. This is a thread ring that I'm going to use for Frances Eden. So it has this lovely lady on here and then a crown, which I think will be super fun to put my threads on. So I'm actually going to just even pop that in the bag while I have it right here. So thank you, Becky, for those sweet gifts. Much appreciated. And now that I'm all about the, thread drops and etc., now I need pretty thread rings. So I received that, and then I received this lovely in the mail from Diana. It is Kismet Stitches. Stitched this ornament for me. And you know I love swans. My Patronus. So she stitched this beautiful piece for me and finished it with pretty fabric on the back, chenille trim. And the fabric is a sort of a very pale pinky mauve color with a charcoal gray thread. I love it so much. And it was wrapped with this baker's twine, black and white baker's twine. And when I get things like these, I save them because I can use this to do the finishing on a little small or an ornament or something like that. So I always save stuff like this, which is a very Diana thing to do, I feel. So, thank you, Diana. I love it. Love, love, love it. And then I had a couple other gifts. So, this little Altoids tin holds some counting pins. And they are, did just one fall? Yeah, just one fall. They have letters on them. So you can, these are particularly useful for when you're quilting and you need to identify, you know, blocks or rows. It's really helpful to put these lettered pins to your fabric so that you can keep them straight. And she made these, so very useful, especially with that Anchors Away quilt that I'm working on because, oh my God, there's so many pieces. So I got these, and then I was also gifted this pin cushion that, so this lady, and I'll try to remember to put in who it is on Instagram, makes these pin cushions, and typically she makes them out of salt cellars, old like vintage salt cellars, but then she also uses votive candle holders on occasion. And so this one is made with Tula Pink Nightshade, and it's heavy. I mean, this is crystal. Tula Pink Nightshade, and then she made these little pins to go with it. So you can see the skull pin. Aren't those fun? I just love this. But boy, you gotta be quick on the draw when these go up. So my friend has a very quick clicky finger or me too finger, me please finger, I suppose is the way that should say. So very cute. And of course, you know, it's Nightshade, it's Tula Pink. What's better than that? And then, so I have been hankering after knitting again. And you probably, so I talked last time that I've been watching Vlogmas, and I've been watching Vine and Once Upon a Corgi, and having so much fun watching those, and it was making me just dying to knit again. So I did actually get out my knitting. I only did a couple of rows, but I did get it out and work on it, which I was thrilled with. And along that vein, a friend of mine gifted me this skein from Northbound Knitting, and this is a skein of her metallurgy yarn, and this is not going to show up to where you can really tell but this is the most stunning, beautiful color that looks like, I mean, it really looks like metal. It looks like silver and copper and bronze all mixed together. And it's just an absolute stunner. It kind of looks green there, but it's not. It's bronzy, coppery. And so I have had this this yarn on my wish list forever, because she makes, the woman that is behind Northbound Knitting, not only does she do yarn, does she dye yarn, but she also designs some beautiful pieces, and she has these incredible, some of them have a very sort of gothic feel to them, shawls, lace shawls, etc. So there's one in particular that I've been really wanting to knit, and it calls for this metallurgy yarn. So I'm super excited about this. And this is 50% superwash merino, 50% silk, and it is merino silk fingering weight, and it is so soft and beautiful. And then because I was on the, I have to knit and I can't stop it, and I can't stand myself. I saw a post from Ex Libris Fibers that her yarn club for 2020 was going to be called the Spectral Collection, and the January colorway was going to be based on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Okay. So, yeah, so I had to have that. And I just have to hope that whatever she has for February is not going to be something I want. Hoping. So, Ex Libris Fibers. She is on Instagram. And so she put these up for pre-order. And it actually came today. So if you don't have yours yet, look away if you want to be surprised. So this colorway is called My Hideous Progeny. And so this is based on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And it is stunning. Absolutely stunning. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with it. I don't care. And this is fingering sock weight, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And the thing that I love about her yarn club is that you don't have to commit to the whole year. You can do it month by month. You can, do it as she sort of announces the prompt, the hint for what it's going to be. And she put up a mood board for this one. So you could kind of get a feel for the colors that she might use. And then not only can you do it month to month, and pick and choose, but you can also, she offers it on different bases. So if you want to change, like 1 month and do sock weight and 1 month do DK or whatever, you can do that. And you're not locked into one all year. And then she also sent this stitch marker, which has a lightning bolt and then a little beaded thing that that matches the colors. So this is the Spectral Collection. And then on the back it has a quote, that says, "Who shall conceive the horrors of my secret toil as I dabbled among the unhallowed damps of the grave or tortured the living animal to animate the lifeless clay?" Yeah. And so I guess I need to get knitting. But wow, I just can't even. I'm glad it showed up today so I could show you. Yeah. So pretty. So pretty. And it came wrapped in this gray tissue paper with these little glitter washi tape. Fun. All right, that's all the stash I have. I did go to my local needle workshop a couple times over the holidays and bought nothing. All right, books. So at the end of the year, I was finishing up my reread of the Harry Potter series, and I did finish reading The Deathly Hallows like on December 29th, 30th, something like that. So I happily finished it right before the end of the year, which is what I wanted. And I gotta tell you, these last few books are hard. Especially because I'd forgotten so much that happened in them. So it was kind of like reading them for the first time. But I'd been so sort of ensconced in Harry Potter world for most of the year that once I finished the last book, I was kind of like, all right, now what do I do with my life? So I went a few days not, I didn't pick up anything else to read. And then I finally decided what I wanted to read. So I went back to the library, and I had been saving this book to read during winter. And so it seemed like the perfect timing, and it was available. So I started on New Year's Day, The Bear and the Nightingale. And I've heard really good things about this. In fact, someone has already told me that it comes highly recommended from Lindy Stitches, from Stephanie, and she concurred when I posted this on Instagram. So, yeah, so I've just started it. I'm not that far into it, but so far I am enjoying it. So I need to pick up the pace though, because it's due back next week. So, but I thought this was kind of the perfect opportunity to read it during winter. And we've had the strangest weather though. On Friday, it was 70 degrees. We were under severe thunderstorm warnings. We had, storms rip through here. There were tornadoes, nothing near me, thankfully. Flash floods, all that good stuff. And then Saturday morning, the temperature, so it was 70, and then the temperature dropped dramatically when the storms came through. Saturday morning, it was snowing in Texas, which is very rare, but it snowed Saturday morning, and then Sunday it was 60 degrees, and it was 60 degrees today. So anyway, but I'm just sort of keeping the snow in my head, and I'm reading this. And once I get done with that, I'm going to read Frankenstein, because I don't know that I've ever read it. I read Dracula years ago, obviously, but I don't know that I've ever read Frankenstein. And we watched that movie that now I can't think of the name of it, about Mary Shelley. and her writing Frankenstein not that long ago, which was really good. And so I feel like, you know, especially with the yarn, with the book club, I think it's the time to read Frankenstein. So I'm going to finish The Bear and the Nightingale, and then I'm going to move on to that. So I think that'll be good. I think that's all I have to tell you today. So those are my plans for 2020. That's as much of a whip parade as you're going to get. I'm going to continue, you know, to try to go through my things and whittle things down, finish them, get rid of them, whatever. That is still my plan. So I'm trying to be very intentional about what I start. And so specifically with Anne Ufendel, you know, when I started looking at the price of the fabric, because it requires a fat half, which, you know, can run about $50. She's a big girl. So when I started looking at that, I started thinking, okay, how can I do this cheaper? And, you know, I started looking at some cheaper options for fabric, etc. And I finally just decided, you know, that's what gets me into this boat in the first place. That instead of, you know, waiting and getting the fabric that I want or the threads that I want and starting it the way that I want to, you know, it becomes a forced start. So I backed myself up off of that and said, you know what? You know what fabric you want to use. I want to use 40 count pecan butter by Lakeside. That's what I want to use. So I just need to figure out a way to make that happen. Because I think that anything else that I try to replace in order to, you know, make it a little more cost effective, I'm not going to be happy with. So then why bother? So I'm just going to work on getting that so that I can get that started. All right, that's really and truly all that I have. So, yeah, that's all I got. Hopefully I will have Crown Bird finished by the next time I see you and be well into working on Sparrow and maybe some other things. So, a year of samplers. Here we go. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you watching.